Listen guys, I've been screaming from the tops of the roofs about the excellence of Spanish wines for years now, and I will continue to do so. But funny enough, when we think about Spanish wines, most of us think about these bold, beautiful red wines that they produce. And we're not wrong when we think that. But let's not forget that Spain produces some of the best white wines in the world as well, and one of them is the one we're discussing today. In this episode of my wine diary, we're talking about the one and only Albariño. Hello everyone and welcome back to my wine diary. By the end of this video, if you liked it, please make sure to subscribe to see more of wine videos posted on my channel. And if you're my returning subscriber, then of course, I thank you yet again for being here with me. I gave a ton of credit to Spain for producing Albariños, but truth be told, it's not the only country that does that. Matter of fact, Portugal is very famous for the Albariños as well. They just come under a different name from there. We're about to talk about this in just a second. But speaking of the regions that produce Albariño, here we have some differences in how it tastes and how it looks like as well. So this is what I want to dig into first. Let's go. Covering some basics first, Albariño is a white grape varietal that comes primarily from the northwest of Spain and Portugal. These wines are very famous for their bright, crisp acidity, their freshness, their floral bouquet of aromas that they offer as well, and then some very unique flavors too. In Spain specifically, Albariño is mostly grown in Rías, Baixas, which is a northwestern region, a coastal region in Spain that has a perfect coastal, cool climate for growing this grape, and it provides this beautiful minerality to the wines that they produce, together with the crispness and that fresh acidity that they offer. Now, when it comes to Rías Baixas specifically, right about 90% of all of the vineyard plantings in the area are Albariño ones. In Portugal, however, Albariño is known under the name Albariño, and it is the key grape varietal in production of Vinho Verde. Now, the Americanized way of pronouncing Vinho Verde is Vinho Verde, so you might have heard it pronounced that way as well, but Vinho Verde is definitely Portugal's Albariño. And while we're seeing the increased interest in growing Albariño in other parts of the world, such as California, Oregon, New Zealand, Australia, Spain and Portugal still remain its spiritual home. So what about some main characteristics of this beautiful wine here? Well, Albariño is a small, thick-skinned grape. And the reason why it's got thick skin is because it needs some protection of that damp marine climate of the coastal northwest of Spain, Rías Baixas. When it comes to its flavor profile, acidity is definitely something that is mentioned the most when we talk about Albariños. So our high acidity gives us that crisp, fresh, zesty flavor profile. And aromas is something that is brought up a lot when we talk about Albariños as well. The aromatic bouquet that Albariño offers is actually usually compared to some other wines, some very popular wines like Viognier or even Riesling sometimes. So definitely extremely aromatic and beautifully crisp and acidic. What makes Albariño really special to me is that its flavor profile doesn't just stop at that high minerality and acidity and the floral bouquet. There are so many other flavor characteristics that Albariños offer. So some of them are citrus, for instance, very zesty, lemon and lime. I mean, you can even taste grapefruit in them sometimes too. So just all of the citrus fruits. Some stone fruits as well are found in Albariños, peach, apricot, what else? Nectarine would be one. Some tropical fruits. I mean, how can we possibly have such an array of fruits here? But yes, that is indeed true. Pineapple and melon sometimes are coming through on the flavor profile with Albariños. Then the florals, which I already mentioned. So here, think about like honeysuckle, orange blossom. So those are very popular in Viognier and Riesling too. So that's why they get compared for the floral aromas sometimes. And then the minerality, of course, with, you know, some seashell notes, especially in the wines from coastal regions. Some saline to them as well. And last but not least, we can't deny that Albariños have some herbal notes in them as well. So sometimes you can taste some hints of bay leaf or even mint in Albariños, which is an amazing flavor quality for a wine to have. makes it just so much more special. Albarino that I'm drinking today is this one here called Ruta 49 or Route 49, and it is a Spanish Albarino. You can see how right on the label it says product of Spain, and it mentions the Rías Baixas, which is the region that I talked about in the beginning. Mostly popular for Albariños. So generally speaking, Albarino wines are dry and they're light to medium bodied. That acidity, I can't stop mentioning it, but that's exactly what it's famous for. But just based on the flavor profiles that I described a second ago, think about just how versatile this wine can be. Not every white wine varietal out there can brag about having the same. Definitely worth covering are styles of Albarino wines, and young and crisp Albarinos are definitely the most popular ones. The young and crisp ones will really give you the most freshness, the most acidity, that crispness to them, all of the fruit flavors as well. So don't hesitate to consume your Albarinos, really no need to age here. However, some winemakers actually do experiment with oak aging of Albarinos. Now those will have to be some really high quality producing regions and winemakers that do that. So again, very unpopular, I would say, but still happens sometimes that Albarinos are aged in oak. With oak, we know what comes. Some vanilla profiles, and definitely a bigger mouthful when you taste that wine, so it's going to be a little bit richer. Not a usual quality for Albarino, though. Now, what's really interesting to me, though, is when we talk about Vinho Verde, specifically from Portugal, sometimes you will find that with a slight fizz, which is, again, something pretty unusual for the Albarinos in Spain, but not so unusual for the Vinho Verdes in Portugal. So that's just a characteristic that, in my opinion, gives our Albarinos some more freshness and makes them even more interesting to drink. So check those out. When it comes to food pairings with Albarinos, I would say that Albarino is probably most suitable with light and fresh dishes out there, but we cannot deny the fact that it's an absolute fabulous wine to have with seafood and fish specifically. So when it comes to seafood, think about Albarino's natural acidity, that saline qualities make it just an ideal pairing with seafood, especially with shellfish, clams and mussels, oysters, but other seafood is great too. So grilled fish, for instance, poached fish, for example, something like some white flaky fish like cod, for instance, halibut would be great with Albarinos. But don't forget about sushis. The crisp acidity and the clean flavors of Albarinos pair extremely well with sushi and sashimi, so check it out next time you go to a Japanese restaurant. Salads and vegetables, I mean, what a great pairing for that as well. Some fresh salads, especially so with citrus dressing. Again, the acidity on acidity here would be a beautiful pairing for you. Some vegetable-based dishes would also be a great match, so a really good wine for vegetarians out there. And then poultry would be good to go with Albarino, so think about maybe chicken and turkey meats, and not to be outdone are some cheeses as well. So here I'll go a different route and actually will challenge you to try Albarinos with softer cheeses. Goat cheese would be an interesting pairing, and then some brie as well would be a good classic. So try it out. Okay, so you say you almost sold me on having Albarino instead of, say, my Riesling or my Sauvignon Blanc or Pinot Grigio, but why should I have it over those favorites of mine? Well, I've got you guys. Let me give you some key differences between Albarino and other similar wines as well. So when it comes to Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, yes, both of the wines are aromatic. They're both pretty high in acidity. However, Albarino is typically more stone fruit forward, and it definitely has saline notes. Compared to Sauvignon Blanc's very green notes or even grassy notes sometimes. Next one up is Riesling. Okay, this is a good one to compare to. Riesling is also very aromatic, right? It can have very high acidity as well, but it's often much sweeter than Albarino, which is generally pretty dry. And then Pinot Grigio, one of my personal favorites as well. So I would say that here, Albarino just tends to be a little bit richer. It has a bit more aromatic profile. I'd say the fruit flavors are probably a little bit more intense here compared to often pretty neutral and a pretty light-bodied Pinot Grigio. So here you go. There are a couple of differences of what we thought at first were pretty similar wines. And here you go, guys. This is it. Now you know everything you need to know about Albariño. So don't forget to serve your Albariños chilled. You don't want to kill this refreshing acidity with warm Albariño. So the suggested temperature is about 45 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is about 8 to 10 degrees Celsius if you go by Celsius. But what an amazing wine to try. So next time you're in a store, especially in the Spanish section or Portuguese section, try your Vinho Verdes, try your Albariños, and tell me what you think. And if this is indeed one of your favorite grape varietals already, then definitely leave a comment down below, because I'm your fella Albariño lover here. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, cheers everyone.